Dr. Taz Bhatia, welcome to Women's Wellness Radio.
Thank you. I'm thrilled to be here.
Well, thanks for coming. And I know this is a busy, crazy time for you. You just had a new book come out a couple days ago. Congratulations.
Thank you.
You want to tell us the name of that and what inspired that, what that's all about?
Sure. It has been a little hectic. The book is called The Superwoman RX, and it's really an important book for me. I've written a couple of other books, but I feel like this one is really probably the most profound and the most important. It's really a culmination of like the last 8 or 9 years of my work. I have an integrative practice, and I spend a lot of time with women. And in the process of working with women, trying to get them to their best self, I'll use integrative medicine, I'll use Chinese medicine, I'll use whatever I've got, all the different systems of medicine that I've been trained in, including nutrition and acupuncture and Ayurveda. And I started to see patterns. And as you started to pay attention, you notice that the Ayurvedic pattern and the Chinese medicine pattern and the hormone pattern and the body types, all started to line up with lab work. And so you could almost become predictive, that person A would have X, Y, and Z in terms of all these other systems of medicine. They would have a specific history and a specific emotional makeup. But then you would turn around and look at the lab work, and the lab work would match it. And as I sort of tested kind of what was in my head, honestly, at the time, I would just see it emerge over and over again. And I'm like, wait a minute, there are like 5 main types. And amongst those types, we have variations different, definitely. And there are going to be some nuances, and no one person's story is the same as somebody else's. But if you could sort of package and hand this information over to women so that they could be very proactive and predictive about their health rather than waiting for the accidents to happen, like all of a sudden they're tired, or all of a sudden they're gaining weight, or all of a sudden, they're not feeling like, they're at their peak and they can't focus or concentrate. How powerful of a tool would that be? So the idea honestly came to me about 5 years ago, but it's needed these last 5 years to sort of sit and marinate and try to grow basically. And I would start putting spreadsheets up on my wall and track all these data points together and be like, okay, so that Ayurvedic dosha goes with that Chinese medicine imbalance, goes with that lab value, goes with that hormone pattern. And what I found is that if you could hand this over, then how amazing is that? You would be able to sort of know your type, or power types as I'm calling them, and then be very predictive about, oh my gosh, because I'm that type, these are the foods I need to eat. This is the way I need to exercise. And these are the supplements I need to take, instead of sort of navigating the wellness world, which is information overload and everybody really not clear and not sure about what's right for them.
I love it. I love it. I don't know if you know this about me because we're just getting to know each other, but
Yeah.
I've been an acupuncturist for 13 years and then later started to study functional medicine and nutrition. And I feel like I'm just starting to kind of put some of those same pieces together, like you mentioned, because for a while I was like, I'm learning this new stuff, but now I'm like, okay, once you get a little more familiar, you can see patterns, and you've worked with thousands of women, it sounds like.
Yes, absolutely. And it's fascinating. And I think the thing that fascinates me the most is simply the fact that these guys 3 or 4 thousand years ago, without lab work and without technology, were so on point. I feel like they were so on the mark, and as an acupuncturist, they were completely into typing. You'd be typed by your meridian, and then based off that meridian, there would be a plan that would unfold, so I don't know. I feel like science is catching up to what those systems of medicine used to say, but catching up in a different way. We talk now in terms of microbiome and DNA and genetic sequencing and all this other stuff. But at the end of the day, all of that is an attempt to personalize information and personalize medical information so that everybody's not on the same medication or on the same diet or on the same, supplements or things like that. So you see the medical world doing the same thing, but in a different context. Ayurveda and Chinese medicine have always done that. Integrative and functional medicine have always stressed the importance of bringing everything together and trying to look at the person from a whole body perspective. So if you really take all of that and you merge it, it is fascinating stuff. And my intent with this book is that it will really educate women, help them to become reconnected to themselves, and ultimately change their lives. That's my hope.
Yeah, it's a great point. I think that science will prove what was going on for thousands of years. And in a way, you probably found this too, doing integrative work. There's just dismissers, certainly,
Totally. All the time.
Yeah,
All the
even though
time.
you see the results. So it's nice to say, well, look, actually we do, we can back this up with science and lab work. So Super, super cool. So, my idea for a book, I'll just share it for the world, was to do like one on the 5 elements, because I'm from a Chinese background. But I thought, well, that might be a little boring, to be honest. But your book is on like these 5 types of superwomen, and you talk about developing or working with the superwoman syndrome, which some people have maybe heard of, women doing it all and juggling so much. And I read your bio. You're doing a lot too.
Yes, I am.
You're a practicing physician, best-selling author, associate professor, international lecturer, acupuncturist, certified nutritionist. Yeah, I'm going to list them all. Preventive integrative health expert, mom of 2 small kids, wife. So yeah, you're definitely a superwoman as well. So I guess maybe my first question is, can we do it all? Can we have so many things going on in our lives and still have our health?
So it's a great question. And the title of the book is a little bit tongue in cheek because people do call me Superwoman. And my daughter actually was the one who's like, Mom, your next book should be called something about Superwomen, because everyone that we ever meet together always is calling you a Superwoman, But it's a little bit tongue in cheek because of this. The only reason that I can handle that list that you just rattled off is because it's for a couple of reasons. It's because, first of all, I know how to take care of myself. And secondly, the stars have aligned and my life is a life that I love. I absolutely love. I love my family. I love the work that I do. I'm excited to get up in the morning. I never dread any day in my life. There's never a time where I can't like function or things like that, or I feel mentally foggy or things like that. And when I sit back, and again, remember, I've seen like over 10,000 women over this last decade. When I sit back and I hear their stories as to how they may be having trouble getting out of bed, they're having trouble in a relationship, they're having trouble with their work, they're not really sure it's the right work for them. They're gaining weight, or they just don't feel good. They don't feel alive. Like we call it mojo in the book. They feel like they've lost their mojo, basically. And as I would listen to these stories over and over again, because as you know, that exam room is sacred almost. I mean, it's a place where people have the time to unload kind of the most important things to them. I was like, why is this happening? And it clicked for me very quickly, because 20 years ago, I was kind of in the same boat. Like I was tired, I was fatigued, I had joint pain, I was losing hair, I was breaking out. I mean, I had all these symptoms, even though I was so much younger. You would think that should have been the time of my life then, but it wasn't. And so when I contrasted like the old me and the new me, and I contrasted sort of, the women that I see and how they improve in the course of being in our practice, I was like, the reason sometimes we're blocked from doing the things we're supposed to do and from really wanting all the things we're supposed to want is ultimately because we don't know how to take care of ourselves. So at this point in history, we as women can do anything. We can honestly do anything that we set our minds to. We may choose to stay at home, or we might choose to have a career, or we might choose to do both. We may choose to run a business or work for a corporation, but whatever it is, the choice is really ours. But the difference is that because we have so many options, we have more stress than any other woman in any other decade of history. And that stress in itself is a place where disease begins and sort of your change starts to occur, because it changes you from being vibrant and glowing and happy about life and happy about the world into someone who's a shadow version of your original self. So my whole thought with this was, hey, if you could educate women as to how to take care of themselves, then maybe they would tap into superpowers that they themselves would heal and be able to use to do the great work that they're meant to do. If they could sleep through the night, if they could wake up feeling energized, if they could get through the day without dragging or crashing at different points in the day, then not only would they be healthy, right, in terms of just when you think from a disease standpoint, but they would also be vibrant, where they may enjoy their children or their spouse or their friends and have the energy to show up for dinners and all the other things that happen in life. So really, it's important for women to understand that we have choices, which is amazing. And we credit the women that came before us for being able to have all these amazing choices. But at the same time, we have a responsibility to ourselves to make sure we're manning how we're taking care of ourselves so that those choices don't sort of bite us right back in our face. And I think that happens to a lot of women where, like I've got friends and patients that are CEOs of major corporations or partners in law firms, and they're trying to keep up with the guys, they're trying to keep up that pace. And at some point, we all need to sit back and be like, we're not guys. We have a lot of different unique needs. We have to meet all those needs. And that's only when we're going to be at our happiest and at our most vibrant.
I love it. I love it. I like how you said too, it's not just taking care of yourself. It's also loving your life, which I think is so important. And I know sometimes when I was stuck in situations that I didn't want to be in, it really affected my health. So, what are your approach? Do you kind of focus on the self care and the typing, and then they kind of make better choices, so to speak, about finding the life they love and choosing the options that create less stress?
Yeah, I'm a huge believer in energy, right? I mean, and energy is cumulative, it's quantitative. And so your original source of energy is going to be the food you eat, the way you sleep, kind of the nutrients that you do or do not have, sort of what your hormones are doing. Those to me are the raw materials. Like we can't build an entire you, just like you can't build a house until you have some of those raw foundational materials. So what I've noticed is that a lot of women come in and they're great about mindfulness, they're great about sort of like the emotional piece of it, like maybe journaling or praying or writing, whatever it is. But these raw materials that we're talking about are not taken care of. So no matter how
Mm.
much mindfulness work they do, it's not yet shifting kind of the raw materials of you. So for me, the very first thing from my perspective is really to make sure those things are intact, and then from there you see people being able to elevate their energy. And as they elevate their energy, it's energy on all fronts. It's their emotional energy, it's their intellectual energy, it's their sexual energy. It's all their energy basically goes to a different place, and then they can start moving on. So I always talk about my favorite moments in the practice. I mean, that's when literally a patient will come in and she won't look me in the eye, she'll look away. You can see the colors out of her face. She's drawn, she's fatigued, she's tired. Her skin may look, again, if you diagnose from a Chinese medicine standpoint, you can pick up very quickly what's going on with their skin and things like that. And as we work with them, it's amazing to see the transformation that can occur somewhere in 90 days to 6 months or however much time it may take for each person. So, I mean, I think in general, those raw materials, that stuff has to be in hand, no matter how much of the other work you do. But at the same time, the beauty of Chinese medicine is that sometimes the biggest wound is an emotional wound or a trauma or something terrible that's happened in somebody's life, or a series of unfortunate events, literally, that have happened in somebody's life that have led to the chemistry falling apart. So for those patients, you have to do a little bit of both, and you kind of have to do them at the same time. So when you look at the plans in the book, you'll see that there's a mix of food being very powerful and fundamental throughout every plan in the book, supplements
Mm.
being a common theme as well, but the mindfulness aspect being important, sometimes more important for certain types than for other types, because we know that they
Oh.
shift in different directions. So the book is very deliberate in terms of the 10 steps. So we lay out 10 steps that have to be accomplished over 3 weeks. And in the 10 steps, like one type versus the other type, one may need to really focus hard on diet. Another one may need to focus really hard on movement, while another might need to focus on sleep, rest, and sort of emotional healing. So that's some of the differences amongst us and where we enter the equation of wellness and health and things like that. But at the end of the day, you've got to have the raw materials to shift your energy. And if your energy's been assaulted by something, then you've got to rebuild that energy, in every way you can think, to be able to move on to the next step. Otherwise, you're going to choose the wrong guy, you're going to choose the wrong partner, you're going to choose the wrong job. I mean, I've seen it play out time and time again when you're not in that right frame, which is cumulative, everything from food, nutrition, sleep, hormones, getting kind of the right sort of mind body technique down, getting the right exercise down. When you don't have that cumulative equation quite right, then you can almost miss the train for the life that you're supposed to lead. You almost take the wrong train. And I myself
Mm.
was very much in that position. I was on track to be, a full blown ICU or ER doctor, and not really connected to myself at all. I mean, those fields are exciting, they're adrenaline pumping. You do a lot of procedures, you save a lot of lives right away, right in a moment's notice, but you in no way have relationships with people. You in no way have any sort of continuity, with anyone. And I was so disconnected from myself at that time that I didn't understand myself enough to know that a part of my energy and my passion is being able to connect and being able to interact and being able to follow something through. And so by denying myself that in my early years, I was sort of constantly depleting myself over and over again. So that's an example of me not just being physically unwell, but also going down a path that when I think about it today, I was like, how would I have done that? How would I have run to the hospital and the ICU at all hours of the night and had children and all that other, you know what I mean? It's like, I sit back and I'm like, how would I have been happy doing that? I don't think so, because I would have been in a very scattered sort of state of mind, a very odd schedule, and I probably wouldn't have had children. I probably wouldn't have pursued a family if that was the life I was going to have. And I probably would have had regrets, as I got older, that I never took out time to have a family. So again, it's really understanding yourself very well and making sure that everything's lining up so that you make the right choices for you.
Yeah, I love how you said the stress really comes just from lots of options, because sometimes I feel women don't feel like they have options, but we really do. Like, being in an ICU director, is like a big deal. And it's
Right.
so of course people would say, oh, that's a great goal, but is it the right goal for you? Maybe
you nailed
not.
it. You nailed it. I mean, all the titles, everything sounds amazing, right? I mean, we can go further back. We can go back to college. Like, I was debating between journalism and medicine, right? Because I love to write and I love to, I do a lot of media, and I still feel like I have a natural, gift for that. But at the same time, I would be reporting on the stories. I wouldn't be changing anything. I wouldn't be innovating, right? And I didn't know back then that a part of my essential nature, like if I had had my test back then I would have understood that an essential part of my nature is being an innovator, being a visionary, and being a reporter, confined to a network. Like, I would have been in a hierarchy that I would have had to adhere to. Like, you know what I mean? So again, like when I think through all this stuff, so that's why knowing your type is important, both from a medical standpoint, because there are certain medical conditions that I've seen that are attached to each type. There are emotional characteristics that are attached to each type. And there are definitely personality traits and personality tendencies that are attached to each type. And the goal here, my husband was joking. He was like, you're going to start a war amongst women. Everyone's going to be like, well, I'm an earth mama and I'm a gypsy girl, and which one's better than the other? And all that other stuff. He goes, you're going to cause problems all across the world. I'm like, no, I'm not saying one is better than the other. That's not the point. The point is embrace who you are, and embrace who you are, acknowledge who you are, and then follow that all the way through and just chase it down and hone it down until you also wake up every day feeling so blessed and so thankful and so gifted with the work you do and the family you create and the community that you serve. I mean, I think that every woman ultimately, that's what she wants. She wants to be a part of this collective whole, but she serves that collective whole in very different ways.
Yeah, I like how you said, it's not a competition, because
Right,
I took the quiz,
yes,
and I was not surprised with my result at all. But
what
I was
are
like,
you?
oh, I'm a boss.
Okay, gotcha.
What's it called? Bossy woman?
Boss lady.
Boss
Yep.
lady.
Yes.
Not at all surprised. But I was like, oh, I'm going to have to admit to everyone.
Did it resonate? Did you?
Oh, totally. I'm
Okay,
totally
gotcha.
that type. But I don't
Okay.
think I always seem that way on the outside to some sense. But it's like you can just own it. You're like, this
just
is
own it. That's who you are.
me.
I mean, again, it's perception too. Exactly. There's nothing wrong with that. There's absolutely nothing wrong with that. You have to embrace that, and you have to chase after whatever it is you want. But it's funny because people see me externally, and of course there are all these preconceived notions with each name, right? I've already gotten feedback on that. I'm like, stop assuming that just because you hear these names that this is what the person is. It's close, but it's not 100%. So everyone's like, oh, you must be a boss lady. They all think that. Everybody at work, everybody that I meet, that you must.
Sure, I
like,
would have thought that.
No, I'm not. I'm a savvy chick. I'm like that in between person who sort of keeps vacillating between being a boss and being a gypsy,
Oh,
so
interesting.
that's me. So I have a little bit of both in me, and I have the common medical things that are in there. Those apply to me as well. So it's just fun. This is a little fun too, because it's like fun to like look at the people around you. It was funny. We were joking because my husband, who is amazing, and this is a book for women and it's not a book for men or for kids. But if I had to stereotype him based off what I've seen, both medically and personality wise, he would be an earth mama. And so it's like that realization that this is what I'm dealing with. So for my sometimes ambitious, sometimes dreaming self, like I have to keep remembering that this guy over here needs a lot of nurturing. Otherwise he himself is going to get depressed and withdraw and things like that. And even for my daughter who took the test, which she was not supposed to, but she saw the book and got really excited. I'm like, this is not for little girls. But she started answering the question. She's a gypsy, and that again was an aha moment for me because she has anxiety, her brain is elsewhere all the time, and down the road, I'll be looking to make sure she doesn't have any of the other conditions that we talked about in there. So it's kind of fun within your immediate circles to start pegging people, and it changes your interaction with them. You understand kind of the dynamic that they're coming from.
Yeah, it's true. Understanding yourself better is helpful. And yeah, understanding what the people in your lives need from you is great. And like the 5 elements of Chinese medicine, did you know about? They all balance each other, right?
Yes,
They feed each other and
absolutely.
balance. So you
Yeah.
can't just have all gypsies or all whatever. Like you
No.
have to, and probably someone you choose for your partner. I mean, sometimes it might be the same type, but it's probably often different,
A different type.
they
Exactly.
complement each other.
So I'm looking forward to doing that next, but we'll get there later. I need to recover from this one first. But
I want to ask you a little question before we go into the 5 types, because I just kept seeing this come up in the quiz. You asked a lot about hair. Yeah. And I wondered, is that from your Ayurvedic background? Why the hair?
It's coming from a couple of places. It's both from Ayurveda and Chinese medicine, and it's personal. I mean, I think this entire journey began, unfortunately, I wish I had a better story, but it really began with me losing my hair, which used to be sort of, I guess, my crowning glory or whatever you want to call it, but the thing that everybody admired, right? And so I, just being busy and not connecting to my body and going to residency and medical school and ER and all that other stuff, had slowly, I guess, in a very slow way where it wasn't noticeable all at once, had been losing hair. And ultimately, by the time I was out and working, I had a pretty big patch up here, and I would notice, but again, not acknowledge that people would talk to me, but they would look up here, you know what I mean? Because they were so distracted by this. And then finally it was my mom, and then my husband, who at the time we were dating, he was just like, I'm just worried something's wrong with you. Can you please go get checked out? We don't care about how it looks, but it's just maybe something's wrong. So that started it. And it was like visit to visit, different doctors, different medications, one of which was horrid and dropped my blood pressure. And that spurred me to figure all this out. But in the process of trying to figure out my hair, I gained a lot of hair knowledge. And there's so much from Chinese medicine, Ayurvedic medicine, just with hair and skin and face reading, that you can learn about a person. So that's why it's so prevalent in the quiz, because I can sometimes look at a person walking into the room and know very quickly kind of what's going on with them hormonally, or even from just sort of an overall emotional standpoint. I can tell pretty quickly now, even without the quiz, kind of what's happening. So that's why it's there.
Interesting. Yeah, I'm glad. I wanted to ask about that too, because a lot of women do worry about changes with their hair getting coarse or falling out. And they're sort of like, oh, I don't want to say that I'm concerned about my hair, but I am. And it's okay to be concerned about your hair. It is
absolutely. I mean, I joke all the time. I'm like, I would love to say that I had a big disease and then cured myself of a big disease, but no, I had PCOS, which is polycystic ovarian syndrome. But a part of PCOS is having high androgens, which then change the hair initially. So all these changes I want women to be aware of. So I have thick, a huge head of Indian hair, as you've probably seen. Just, it was super thick, the thickest in the whole family. And slowly what had happened, if I had known then, I would have caught it earlier. But what started happening was like every thick strand started to thin. So the strands just thinned and got really like friable. Like they were like paper. They would crunch up in my hands. And I didn't think anything of it. Well, then those started falling. And so that was probably stage 2. And then as those fell, you started to see more of the clearer, the balding in the scalp and things like that. So that was like the progression of all of that. But essentially what it was is that I was in a high androgen state, or a high male hormone state with high DHT and testosterone and DHEA, all fueled by my stress, my gung-ho career, my irregular sleep cycles, my really crappy diet of Diet Coke and popcorn for dinner and all that other stuff. So all of that triggered high androgens, which started this process, but took 5 or 6 years to really, truly become noticeable, So my issue is PCOS, and the psychological impact of that, I think we don't call enough attention to that. Like there were days I didn't want to go out. I'm a young 25, 28-year-old girl. And, like days I didn't want to go out, days I didn't want to get dressed, days I didn't want to comb my hair. But at the same time, still feeling so disempowered that I wasn't seeking help. It's like somebody else had to tell me to go get help, because I was embarrassed, I guess, to be a doctor and then ask for help, So, I mean, I think these are all the things I worry about for women. And even when they come into the practice, it may not be hair, it might be something else. It might be their weight or their skin or their joint pain. We all are in the mentality of powering through, but powering through, again, it's going to catch up with you. So instead of powering through, figure yourself out so that you have, again, the raw materials to move forward. And my story, basically, in a nutshell, needed to be gluten-free. The gluten was affecting my thyroid. My thyroid was triggering all the other hormone imbalances, and I needed to sleep, quite honestly. The sleep was triggering all the androgen issues and all that other stuff. And once those changes kind of lined up, and then my hair came back, and it's still not the hair of my youth, right? But it's not where there are these hugely noticeable spots that people's eyes go to immediately. So anyhow, so that's what happened there. And then it was also tied to pain and skin and weight and everything else in between.
Yeah. Yeah. That's a great personal story that I think a lot of people can relate to. I just want to say an aside that I hope that doctors like you can change the way med school works, because it makes people so sick.
It really does. I know.
So bad.
I know. It's really bad. In fact, I look at my daughter and I'm like, I don't know that I want this for you, but yeah, it's really brutal. I mean, it has gotten better even since my time. I mean, in my time, you would just, you would go in and you would come out 2 days later, and now I know there's some better rules where you have to leave at least the next day by noon and things like that. But yeah, it was bad. I'm not gonna lie, it was bad. And then of course I chose things too, right? I chose the ER and I was looking at ICU and doing all this other stuff. And those are all stress hormones go up and then they come down, then they go up and then they come down. I mean, that's the path I was on, so.
Yeah. Yeah. So we've hinted a bit about the types. Do you want to talk a little bit more about the types and what people can find in the book?
Yeah, absolutely. So the 5 types, and they have fun names, so please don't judge by the names, but it's the gypsy girl, the boss lady, which you are, the savvy chick, which I am, the earth mama, and then the nightingale. So those are kind of the 5 key types. And each type has a specific dosha, meridian, hormone issue, etc. So my gypsy girls, I describe them as being my creatives. That's a big generalization, but they usually are the people in a different space, and they're thinking, creating, writing, painting, drawing, acting, whatever it is, but there are creatives. And because they're in that space, often they're not grounded and they're definitely not connected to their bodies or often to themselves. So they love to stay up late, because that's their most creative time. I hear that all the time. Well, I'm just a night owl. That's my best work. That's the time that I function the best. And then from a hormone standpoint, all of that leads to adrenal fatigue. They're often low in B vitamins, and they often also need to be gluten free. My boss ladies like you, for example, on the other hand, they're direct, ambitious, commanders, directors, leaders, they run teams, companies, whatever else. They love it. They love all that stuff. But again, what Ayurveda and Chinese medicine tell us, that particular type is prone to gut issues. And a lot of that chronic stress and a lot of the chronic responsibility or the burden of responsibility will hit their gut. And that issue then in turn is the starting points are often subtle, just like the hair we talked about, but it's usually just bloating or diarrhea or constipation, which then progresses into, chronic IBS or inflammatory bowel issues or things like that. But their gut is like the seat of where they will feel everything and have issues. So they need a gut balancing regimen. They often need to be dairy free. So I put them usually on a dairy free diet because dairy is so hard to digest and creates more heat in these old systems of medicine. And they also do probiotics and digestive enzymes and other things to rebuild their gut lining. The savvy chicks are a mix of those two. So somebody like me, I have to be gluten free, and then I'm relatively dairy free as well. I have to work on my adrenal and my thyroid. So both from a hormonal standpoint and a supplement standpoint, that's where I'm working. And, I also have to be in work and in a mode where both of those aspects of me are fulfilled. So I lead teams, but I also innovate and create. I will come in and give 20 orders, but at the same time, I'll have to come back and either write or think or meditate or do other things that bring out my creative energy. My earth mamas, I love them dearly. I feel like I click with them a lot for some reason. Like I said, my husband may be the male version of one, but they essentially are nurturers. They're those people who are so sacrificing, and their entire motivation is the good of their immediate circle. Probably my mother-in-law, that maybe that's where my husband gets it from. My mother-in-law is the closest example of that. Like they are always in service to someone else. It's not about them. They have no ego about themselves, so their only ambition is to see their inner circle do really well, and that comes with a toll. So they often have issues with oversleeping, not moving enough, gaining weight, depression, cardiometabolic issues, so that's where they fall. And lastly, it's my nightingales, and they're their own category because they're sort of a mix of every woman, but they are the women who, again, absolutely selfless, but they're really on a different plane. They're really brokering world peace, or they're really trying to, change the world in a much bigger sense. But that also takes a lot out of them. So they may be traveling to different countries. They may be in different time zones. They may be taking hits from lots of different people on different issues or things like that. But they often crash their immune system. So I felt like they needed a specific plan to rebuild their immune system to be able to do the work that they want to do. So those are the 5 key types.
I love it. And the quiz I took is like a partial quiz, right? There's like a longer quiz in the book. Is that right?
Yes. And there's a longer quiz in the book and a little bit more detailed. So hopefully and I would encourage you to do it, because sometimes even a changing of a few questions may shift your type just a little bit. So I would take a look at that.
I feel like I might be a savvy chick too, because I really need to have my creative time too. And
I think there's a fine line between those. So you can easily shift. And then the other thing I would say too, real quickly though, is the book is written to be a lifelong book. It's not just for right now, because remember, as women, we're hormonal creatures and we change. Things are going to change in our lives. You might have a baby, you might go into perimenopause, you might go into menopause, whatever it is. And you would come back and take the test again and figure out where you are. So I'm a savvy chick today, but I might turn into a nightingale in a couple of years, or I might shift and become an earth mama as I get older, So there is that fluidity, just like medicine has shown that everything's fluid and dynamic and changing. So there is a little bit of fluidity there. And it's something that anytime you're feeling off, you come back and do this, see where you are, and then follow that plan and then move forward with that and then come back again. And it's a great way to check on yourself, especially when I think the average visit in the doctor's office is sometimes not in depth, not a visit where every lab value is measured or things like that. This is at least one tool that you can put in your back pocket to really monitor and check yourself moving forward.
I love it. I really want to get the book. I think it sounds like a lot of fun.
It is.
Me. And there's some other resources that come with the book, or is that kind of changed now that the book is out?
I think it's still up through maybe today. I think it may be taken down today.
By the time this comes up, it won't be. But tell us about, like, you also have a website and a clinic, and you work with all sorts of people.
Absolutely. So my practices right now, we have 2 practices in Atlanta, and we're hoping to grow that down the road, but it's Center Spring MD. So that's where you make patient appointments, and we have a full service staff, everything from acupuncturists to physicians, nurse practitioners, massage, all of it. That first visit's pretty intense, but this book again is sort of a little bit of that in print form, but it's, we do the whole diagnostics, Ayurvedic, Chinese medicine, your history, your physical, we do labs that day. And it gives us a pretty well-rounded picture of who you are. And then we move forward in creating a plan. So that's the practice. My website is drtaz.com. And I'm on Instagram and Facebook as Dr. Taz MD. And on the website, actually, we'll be launching some courses. We're calling them Superwoman courses. So those will be coming up soon. So keep your eye on that. And we'll be tackling everything from hormone health to the best supplements to take to anti-aging, all of that good stuff.
Oh, awesome. Cool. Well, we'll link to all that, how people can take the free quiz or buy the book, and all your social media. Dr. Taz, thanks so much. This has been fun, a super deep conversation that I think will be really good for our women listeners.
Thank you. Thanks for having me.